Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back. It's the big thing. This is a nostalgic episode, everybody. That's right. Today, my friend Miri Jedeikin is going to join me, and we're going to talk about the strike. Now, when you go, oh, man, the strike again, yeah, this is different. Miri, who some of you may or may not know from the old Schmoes days, I know a lot of people found us recently, but if you're following us from the Schmoes days and the AMC days, then you'll know Miri. Well, Miri's gone on to do a different career, and she's awesome at it. She's been kicking ass, and she sent me this article about how mental health is really a big thing right now going on with these strikes, and how it's affected not only the writers and the actors, but people on the other side as well. And I thought it was pretty fascinating, and we're just going to have the conversation about that in general. So I'm glad to have her here, and I'm glad that you guys are able to have her back, or for the first time at the big thing. So we're going to talk to Miri in just a bit. If you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, hit that button, man. We're almost at 100,000, and we need you guys to help us out. So hit that button. Let's do it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found, you know what to do. All right, let's get to it. It's me. It's Miri Jedeikin. It's the big thing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Big thing. Monday. And this is awesome. Look who it is. Miri Jedeikin is here. Hi, Miri.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm really good.
It's good. We're catching up. We've only been catching up for maybe 5 minutes.
You know,
Jumping right into it.
Jumping right back in. Yeah.
Like we never left.
Like we never left.
And you said I'm a little rusty. I don't know. I don't think so.
We'll see.
You're pretty good at this.
It's been a minute.
Yes. Well, let's go. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because we briefly during the pandemic, I was doing the one-on-one with Kristian Harloff again, and we had kind of caught up there. But that series in general, I don't think it got that channel, the old one that you knew. The algorithm just hasn't been kind to it because it's just gone through so many iterations. So when I put things up there, it doesn't matter what it is, they just don't get the eyes that they should. So that's another reason why I thought it would be great to have you back today, kind of reintroduce you to maybe people who don't know from those days. And because I was thinking, no, you're not old. I was thinking because you were a producer for the Schmoes. Well, let's even backtrack. You and I met. I was thinking it was like late 2013, early 2014.
Yep.
AMC. We were both contributors on Movie Talk. Isn't that nuts?
Years.
That's nuts. Yeah, and then you became a guest on the Schmoes Know. I just watched your tribute video the other day in preparation for this, and your journey of where you were. It was like you were a contributor, and then you became the producer of the show. And you were great. You kept us in line. You kept us scheduled. It was very organized. And then in 2016, it was a real trek for you for where you had to go from where you were living at the time to Burbank. So and then you did some stuff with HitFix for a bit.
Yeah.
And
Brooks.
so tell me after that what was the journey like? What happened? Where'd you go?
Oh man, it's like an epic.
Let's hear it.
Tolkien-esque.
That's why we're
quest.
here.
So I went back to school.
Yeah.
And I got my master's in clinical psychology.
Amazing.
And I did many thousands of hours of training, believe it or not. Some of it during the pandemic, and became a therapist. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a full practice. Work with all kinds of individuals, definitely creatives, definitely entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because so much of what you do and I did in this space, there's some similarities. You know, you talk to people, you focus, you're listening, you're asking questions.
Sure.
So some of the skills kind of
Transfer over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Because you have to, I mean, because you had interviewed so many different people, and whether it was with us and before you were with us, you were doing that stuff. You were doing junkets, and and I can see where
Electric Playground
for sure. And you've got to listen, but but there's that now added element to it where you've got to be able to also not just have like what the next question is about the movie. You've got to have a response to where it's helpful.
You have to be able to diagnose mental health disorders,
right.
And
that's why she's here today, by the way, for me.
Little do you know, Kristian. No, it's really, but you do. I mean, assessing for safety and suicidality, and there's laws, there's ethics, there's a licensure process, there's a board.
Yeah.
It's like grown-up stuff.
I know, but it's awesome. And when you told me that you were doing that, I wasn't surprised at all, especially for because you had to, because nobody really, understandably so, didn't really hear from you that much during that time because you were barreled in. You know,
I was, working my
you have
butt
to be.
off. Yeah, and lots of personal life changes, and actually now you and I live very close, which is funny.
I know.
But yeah, it's been a wild ride, but it's been amazing.
Good.
I love what I do.
I'm glad because I could see where you'd be awesome at what you do, and
Thanks.
of course. And then so you had sent, because we tried to actually do the podcast for like the last 3 months. Yeah, right. It's like a few different things happen. I think that I got sick, you got sick, everybody got sick.
And then you were away, and then I was away. I don't
Right.
know. It was just scheduling like Tetris. It was difficult, but we're here.
But here we are.
We made it.
We did finally, and
So happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. And then you sent me this article because you said, "What are we going to talk about?" I'm not as caught up in the industry as, and I said, "It's not." I shouldn't say the industry, but in the movie news and those types of things, like the way that you were, obviously when you were in the thick of it. But I was like, this show, that's what's so different about this show than even from Schmoes, definitely from the Collider and AMC days, is that I love having one particular topic, hence the big thing of the day, and which I think the big thing for this episode is definitely talking about how this is affecting everyone, not just business wise, but mentally. And you had sent that article, and I said, yes, it literally, and it will be probably the entire episode because there's just so much. But we'll talk about some other things, I guess, kind of leading into it, because you'd said, so you saw Barbie.
Yes, I did.
And did you love it?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say I loved it. I think it was really timely and important, and I really respect and appreciate the vision. There's a lot I loved about it. There were some things that I didn't love, but I think overall, I think it's such an important movie. Like,
I agree with that.
The conversation around it is massive.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I'm on the same page as you are. Where I think Greta Gerwig is fantastic. Little Women and Lady Bird were just incredible, and you could see why she has the success that she has attained, obviously, and she's doing Narnia next, which is insane. But
cool.
I know it's awesome. But no, I felt the same way. I think that it's directed really well. I think the message is strong. The tone was a little all over the place for me. It was like sometimes it was this real fun, kind of goofy almost. And I say this, people go, "Whoa, that's an insult." Like, it had like a Cat in the Hat, if the Cat in the Hat movie was good, feel. You know what I mean? And then it had this other side of it, where it's just like this serious. Here's this speech, and then there was a music video, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot." But I'm in the minority because this movie, it's made more money. It's the highest grossing movie of the year.
Yeah, and I think it's talking about something a lot of people are talking about. I mean, I always say I'm an existential feminist therapist, and this is an existential feminist film.
So what does that mean to a dummy like me?
It means that, well, feminist therapy is actually a kind of therapy, and a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, you only see women, or you only see feminists. It's like, no, feminist therapy is actually about understanding that everybody comes from a context. So your identity, your gender, your religion, your sexual orientation, all of it contributes to who you are as a person, and your environment determines a lot of the experiences you have, your mental health.
Okay.
So to not acknowledge that is sort of missing a big piece of the puzzle when we work with people. So that's really what it means in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The existential piece is, I think we're meaning makers. I've always been storytelling focused. I've always loved stories. It's why I did what I did, for years, talking about movies. And I think we tell stories. I think that's how we understand ourselves.
For sure.
And so existential therapy, existential psychology is really about, what does it all mean? What matters to me? Where do I find value? Where do I find meaning? Who am I in the world? What does it mean to be here? What does it mean to be human? So
yeah, and I can see that as you describe it that way, with I'm sure all the different people that you've now met in this career, and all the different stories that you have just kind of attained, because you see everything kind of in that way, right? So like that's why you responded to film, that's why you responded to television, and not that people's lives are just fictional stories, but that's where those fictional stories come from, real life and real truth.
Yes,
so
chef.
Yeah, for sure. Do you watch The Bear?
Oh my God,
it's the best.
I love that show.
It is.
the best. Talk about mental health
for
in
real.
Hollywood.
Did you watch season 2?
Yeah, I like
Jamie Lee Curtis. Next level.
Inhaled it.
Next level.
Yeah,
she better get nominated.
Yeah,
because
it's incredible.
It's next level.
Yeah.
That episode of television, season 2, I think it was like episode 6. Remember the Christmas episode?
The flashback episode.
That first of all, it's shot like a film.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's next to Pine Barrens from The Sopranos. It might be my favorite episode of television ever.
I could see that. It has almost like a throwback to the 70s sort of dramas that used to come out, like Mike Nichols movies. Like, we don't see stuff like that anymore. I love how they talk about mental health and addiction and trauma, and They do a really good job.
It's fantastic,
It's a great show.
and it's like a good. It's listed as like a kind of a dark comedy.
So weird.
Which is weird. You can see it because I guess because of the stuff that Cousin does and some of the things. I mean, like, there's definitely comedy in it.
There's
but
theatrics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's funny moments, but I don't know that I would. It's so weird the way people like. You ever read the things on Netflix where they describe it, and you're like, this was not what they said it was.
No, remember The Martian got nominated for comedy. Ridiculous.
Silliness.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that show just so much. That one I watched, and then. I don't know. TV, you probably catch up with more than movies these days, right?
Depends.
Yeah.
It's weird because now my work is so involved and I have to be really mindful of what I watch.
Yeah.
So it used to be that I would love to watch horror movies and thrillers. And I just watched this movie on Netflix with Tom Holland, I think. It's like a gothic drama that takes place in like the 20s. It's called The Devil All the Time.
Oh, no, I don't know what that is.
I couldn't finish. It's so dark.
Okay.
And it's good, but
Is it new?
Yeah, it's relatively new,
okay.
and I couldn't finish it. It
was that dark.
It's too much for me.
He's got a lot. That guy, you probably would love to sit down and talk to that guy, see what's going on in his head, because he's got. His interviews are just the best.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. I've seen some clips, but it's pretty dark. And it used to be that I could just consume them, but now I'm so conscious of how things sit in me and how I hold them, and it's heavy.
And that now comes from the new gig, right? I'm sure, because my wife's the same way though. When it comes to, right before she goes to sleep, she's got to be. It's tough. What you're watching because
Family Guy's okay, but
Family right. But she didn't watch Stranger Things the last season, and I had watched it, and then she had bailed on it because the first 2 episodes are very, very horror based, like Nightmare on Elm Street, like old school, right? So she was like, I think I'm out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I said, it gets better. I'm like, not that it gets better, because I think it's fantastic in the first 2. I said, it gets less of that as it goes on. And she's like, all right, maybe when we get closer to Halloween. So like a month and a half ago, she's like, I want to watch it again. So she started watching it, and she was like dialed in, wanted to watch it, but stayed up later because she had to wind down after she watched it, because it's intense.
Yeah. I resonate with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this article though, because I thought, like last week, I don't know how you've been keeping pretty close rein on what's going on with the strikes.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Los Angeles,
right.
So it's like inevitable that the industry. I have friends and family and people that work in the industry. And the strike is it's everywhere, all over the media here.
Yeah.
And, I have clients who are certainly affected by it. Like it's happening. It's spreading its tentacles.
Right.
Like it's really reaching a lot of different industries now at this point.
I mean, it's really affecting the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
I mean, like bad. And there's so much that that people are getting involved with, and like the stuff. I thought, because of the amount of money that it's causing in general, the loss, that this new meeting and proposal so for people who don't know, the writers and the studios were going to sit down, and then they did sit down. So the first, basically right afterwards, the studios were like, well, look what we offered them. We offered them all this stuff. Isn't it great? Like, look what we offered it, and we're still not getting anywhere. And then what really kind of happened was they sat down, and it wasn't a negotiation. It was more so the studios going, hey, this is why you should take this deal.
Yep.
And they're like, well, no, because this deal isn't. It's still a lot of the stuff that we're fighting for hasn't been addressed. So let's not do that. Let's talk about this deal. Some of the stuff, fine, but let's negotiate around it. And they're like, no. And then apparently Iger he's taking it personal. Like the writers, and this goes to that article you sent me, because he has like this father figure thing where he shouldn't be looking at it that way. He should be looking at it as employee. But he's got like this, these are my kids, and it's like, they're not. They're your employees. And then you got what's his face over at Netflix, who is the head of Netflix, who's saying he's worried. This is the inside. This is the supposedly, but he's worried that if we put together a deal that caters to the writers' stuff here, that then the writers overseas and their actors, the writers are going to want, because their deal in the UK, I think, is like next year, that they're going to want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, no. So and then it's a mess. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna. I think 2024 now. Dune got pushed back, and I'm bummed about that. Real bummed.
You know,
about that.
I think it's so interesting. Like when you work in mental health, you see it everywhere. It's like when you buy a car, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
There's the industry, the Hollywood industry, since its inception, has been built on narcissism and exploitation and abuse.
Yeah.
So I think that permeates into a lot of other industries. And I think, for example, a movie like Barbie is very timely because it's not just looking at patriarchy. It's looking at capitalism and all of these intertwining systems that create hierarchies that inevitably oppress people based on, in part, socioeconomic factors, right? So like what's happening with the strike is really interesting. And the article speaks to this too, about how like there are a lot of people caught in the crosshairs, particularly below the line, and people who are working in production, and that sucks. And a lot of people are mad at actors and writers. And I think that's really interesting. They're mad at the people who are speaking up and trying to set healthier boundaries in a traditionally abusive relationship.
And protect their families in the long run, yeah.
And in the long run, it will bleed out to all the below the line workers. Yeah. But it's interesting who gets victim blamed, basically. Yeah. And you know, Iger and all these people, and I don't remember who it was that said, like, we're going to bleed them dry.
That wasn't Iger, yeah, but yeah, there was somebody.
Who was it again that said that?
There was somebody that it was a studio exec. Apparently, people know who it was in particular because that was who Ron Perlman knew. Because do you see Ron Perlman's?
No.
Ron Perlman heard that. Okay. Ron Perlman was like throwing threats. Like
it's Hellboy.
He's like, we know where you live, motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh, in that voice.
More or less. But nonetheless, he the guy, whoever it was an executive. So what Miri's talking about is that and it was reported and leaked that this particular executive was like, yeah, we were prepared for this, and we're just gonna hope that they're not gonna have money for their families. They're not gonna be able to pay for their kids. And
what's wrong with you? Are you not a human? Like, what happened to your heart?
It's the soul got sucked away in the greed.
What is that black piece of coal where your heart once 100%.
Like, there ain't no Grinch here. Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. It's like, I think the strike is just symbolic and emblematic of something bigger that's going on, where people, I think especially since the pandemic, people are starting to really question, what are we doing? Why are we going to the office every day? This is another issue that I hear people talking about. Like, why do I have to go into the office? I'm productive at home. And there's a lot of like big business employee kind of tension that I see, that I think the strike is emblematic of something bigger. Yeah, in other words.
For sure, yeah. Well, it was that's what I took out of that article was, and we're going to link the article, by the way, in the description if you want to read it. But I took that to heart, as I mentioned before, that I've been on the acting side of it. I've been on the stand-up comedian side, trying to get the jobs, working for the executives, doing those things, and there is that kind of like, all right, little one, let us do our thing. And even when you're hired for the job, even when you're hosting, whether it's the companies that we've worked for, it's like you're the hired gun, and you're not looked on as an employee. You're looked on as like, it does feel like, oh, this is like the parent figure to you being the kid, and it shouldn't be that way. And it is for when it is hosts or actors, and it's tough for people, regular people who are just going to their normal lives every single day and know what. To them, I don't have time for actors and this type of thing, because they're doing make believing it. What do they get paid enough? They don't understand everything behind it, because they see like the one thing that's painted for them through the media, the way it looks, but they don't know. Even to listen to what Bryce Dallas Howard and Katie were talking about, like the amount of money that they get taken out from, whether it's from managers and agents and Texas and things, like they don't, even if you see someone with this big price tag that they get on their movies and whatever it might be, they don't get what you think that they get. And it's crazy.
I think that's also something that's been, I don't want to call it like a silver lining, but I think it's a good thing that the strike is starting to empower people to come forward and talk about, like, I can't remember which writer it was. There was a writer on a show, and they were like accepting an award in a rented tux and like couldn't pay their rent. Wow. It was a Netflix show or something. I saw one headline, and I'm seeing headlines of like, guess what? I was in the writer's room of this like top-notch, top-rated show, and I couldn't like buy groceries that week. So there's a lot of people working on big titles that aren't making enough money to earn a living wage, which is an issue in a lot of industries. And a real squeeze happening, I think. So.
There is, and all the stuff, whether it's the amount of writers to put in the writer's room, the AI side of it, the residuals, and the other thing I thought was really interesting that I certainly wasn't thinking about that made sense immediately when I read it was that, we think about the actors, we think about the writers, we think about the studio execs, but we're not thinking about the people who just work at the struck companies that go to work every day because they have to do the same thing, right? They're paying, that's their job, and the assistants.
And they're losing their shirts also.
Yeah.
Like all of these other industries that support film and TV and all of that, like the production services companies and catering and, you name it, like all the things that go into sets, props, all that stuff, like they're not working.
They're not working, but even the ones who are working, right? Like the ones who, yes, you're going to have those people that we just talked about at the high level that have, as you said, have kind of the black heart now, and it's just about the dollar. But there are those people, and we've worked in the studio system. There are good people in the studio system, and I think that like they get a bad rap because I've worked with really good people who do get it and do look at Ethan Irwin. Ethan Irwin is one of the best people in the world. He's such a sweet, he works at a production company, works in the studio system and everything too. So there are good people and a lot of good people, but I think it's someone like just like an assistant to one of those, someone at Warner Brothers, right? Who that's their job. Maybe they're coming right out of college. They've been working there for a year, 2 years, and they are on the side of the writers but they can't stop working there because no one's fighting for them, and they're against the people that they believe in, and it's like this mental thing that's going on for them too. I'm sure is pretty stressful.
Sounds messy.
Yeah,
and I think it's just the thing that was interesting to me about the article, which was sent to me by a friend and colleague of mine, is just the toll that it takes on everyone's mental health, like the not knowing, and the thing I thought was interesting too is like how you can feel really empowered to be on a picket line and fighting for your rights while also feeling helpless and hopeless at the same time.
Right.
So that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, because you're waking up every day to fight for what you believe in, but at the same time, then you look at your bank account and it's just dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and it's like, okay, I have all this support around me when I go and I'm for the day, but when I go home, how long do I have this home?
Yeah.
I understood that completely.
I think Billy Porter sold his house or something.
Is that what it was?
I saw that I don't know. I should have checked.
No, but I mean, I think there's tons of people like with these types of stories right now, and it's you don't think about it because there are a lot of times, especially for people who are watching like this show, a lot of the time they're like, okay, well, when can we start seeing movies again? Because that's, and rightfully so for them. I understand though too, right? Because it's like they're not as locked into it in the same way that people aren't. Not everybody's locked into politics. Not everybody's locked into these things, and so they're not locked into it. What they know is they go to the movies, they want to see it, and then the movies that they want to see, like Dune and stuff, like that, are getting pushed back, and then it's because, and that's the funny thing.
You're gonna see a lot of reality TV.
You're right, because it's gonna.
Isn't that what happened last time?
Yeah, because things are gonna start getting pushed back now. You're gonna get the Marvels that's gonna get pushed. There's no way they're gonna keep the Marvels because it's the same reason, man. Because they said, that Warner Brothers is more concerned about what Dune's going to do and pushing Dune than to figure out how to just pay these people and move on. It's like, well, no, we're going to lose the money, push it. I knew this was going to happen too. We've been talking about this on the show.
Greed.
Yeah.
It goes back to greed.
It's nuts.
It's just greed.
Yeah.
I think it's just greed. I think people just get completely intoxicated by having, Jeff Bezos flying a rocket. It's like, what? Come on.
It's
like, what?
It's nuts.
What are we doing?
It's funny because I said this thing too. It's like, people are like, oh, and it is this one thing because people, you hear it all the time when they talk about like Elon Musk, and they're like, oh man, if I was at Elon Musk's money, you know what I would do? I would do this. I would do this. Shut up. You don't know what you would do because you'd be Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You'd be your head. Without nobody should have that much money because it was $260 billion. You're not a normal person.
No, and I think you're making a good point, which is like nobody is immune to greed.
Right.
Nobody is immune. We live in a late stage capitalistic structure that's crumbling. Like, let's be real. Fewer people have health insurance.
Right.
You go into debt. You have to sell your house if you have, God forbid, a terminal medical condition.
Right.
There are more and more people that are unhoused. There's, I hate to be like storm clouds,
Sure.
but clearly, I'm like, come on the show, the ratings
Debbie
go down.
Downer.
But no, but really, like, I think, it's interesting to work as a therapist because, I see all kinds of different people, but there is a undercurrent of malaise, like ill-at-easeness.
Right.
Like people are not sure what's coming next. And I think that that's something that is permeating. And I think the strike is just like a Hollywood sort of emblem of that. I don't know.
I think you're right.
It seems to me.
But I can tell you what's coming next. I got Marine Layer. You know what Marine Layer is? Well, it is a great, great clothing company that we just started working with, and I absolutely love them. And then obviously, I'm going to tell you about Green Chef. Both of them, very happy to be working with both. Here you go. Support for today's episode comes from Marine Layer. You guys know I love t-shirts. I wear them all the time. They sent me the softest t-shirt ever. Like ever. Imagine like the softest thing that you ever touched. Kittens. Small puppies. Or freshly fallen snow. Now take that by 1,000. I'm telling you, these things are so soft. I couldn't believe it. People tell you that stuff all the time, but this is fact. Whether you're going out on a date, you're at the office, you're keeping it casual, you're shooting videos, Marine Layer has the best shirts for every occasion. Marine Layer clothes are that perfect mix of laid-back style that also looks and feels premium. So I needed a new gear, man, and they sent me this website, and I was on there forever going through stuff and picking out great stuff. They just have so much to choose from and so many different things. Like comfortable, whatever your style is. I love it. It's so soft. It doesn't matter how many times you wash it. Soft. It's incredible. I love them. And I'm always in the look for new gear, and I found it. Marine Layer, man. Now, for a limited time, get 15% off with the code BIGTHING at Marine Layer. That is Big Thing for 15% off your entire order at marinelayer.com. Save your closet one shirt at a time. Green Chef. You guys know how much I love Green Chef. They are the #1 meal kit for eating clean. You can feel your best during the busy season with delicious, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring clean ingredients with no artificial colors, sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, and limited added sugar and limited processed ingredients. You can choose from recipes featuring lean proteins like turkey, sockeye salmon, barramundi, tilapia, scallops, shrimp, the whole 9 yards, guys. It's the best. You can eat clean the easy way with recipes that help manage your weight and support your wellness goals without skipping on flavor. You really will feel your best. I love Green Chef. I've been using them for a while now. I love their meats. I love turning things into rice bowls now, and I make these healthy burritos out of them, and I'm grilling all the time, and I love Green Chef. I've been making a lot of the shrimp bowls too. I like putting those on the grill. I like following their recipes a lot of times. I didn't know I could do half of this stuff, and they make it really easy. If you go to greenchef.com/60things and use the code 60things, you're going to get 60% off plus free shipping. Good deal here this month. greenchef.com/60things and use that code 60things and you're going to get 60% off plus free shipping. Green Chef, baby. The #1 meal kit for eating well. All right, I want to thank both Marine Layer and Green Chef. I've been talking about Green Chef forever, and you guys know it. Have you tried Green Chef yet? Oh, Miri, you're missing out. Green Chef is so good. And Marine Layer, I bought myself a whole bunch of like really some of those loose pants. I can't do the super tight pants though. I'm not 26, so I can't do it. Like all these people
Are
on The
those
Bachelor.
even in anymore? Does anyone wear those super tight?
Everyone on The Bachelor with the real skinny jeans and stuff. I can't
and,
do
like,
it.
rolled up.
Yeah, but
No
they give
socks.
right. I can't
I've
do. They
seen
give you the option to do that, but they also give you the option to do the comfortable style, and that's what I got.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got myself that. And then if you guys want to help out the show and you have the means to do it, and you want to really get some quality stuff, please consider either Green Chef or Marine Layer. The link is in the description, and it is always the first pinned comment that I put here. So it helps out the show tremendously. And we don't do super chats, we don't do the Streamlabs, we don't do any of that stuff. What we do is we have sponsors, and that's how you can help us out. All right, let's shift a little bit though too. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's before I do that, let me ask you this. Again, Miri Jedeikin is here. Miri and I have known each other now 10 years, which is crazy.
Bananas.
I know, it's really nuts. And we had some fun times on the Schmoes, man.
We sure did.
We really did. And it was that. It's so funny how that all worked out, because that show. And it's funny because I always say it. The first thing I always say is it's not a disrespect to anybody I worked with on, whether it was Schmoes or Collider or anything. This show that I'm doing now is the most fun, the most relaxed that I've ever been. But it had to do with all that stuff in the past because of, like you were saying before, you learn each and every time, and you progress, and that was the thing. Like we were really learning on the job, like back then.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, there's stuff, and there was stuff though too. Like even from when you first came on the show, hasn't times have changed so much. We couldn't never do the stuff. You remember Spicy Lucy?
Oh my God.
We never do Spicy Lucy.
No.
The whole show would get canceled.
Tom Dagnino.
Yeah, yeah, he would. I mean,
does he still have the ridiculous hat?
The mask?
The mustache.
The mask.
The mustache
he
hat?
just golfs all the time. That's all he's doing is golfing. He just golfs all the time, and he's
Sounds rough.
the same lunatic he's always been.
Tell him hi.
Yeah, that's it. And we have a chipmunk on the show now who's filthy. It's like an actual filthy chipmunk. And back in the
like
day,
a real chipmunk animal.
He comes on the show and he talks, and he's pretty filthy. But I would introduce you to him. But like with your profession today, I don't know if you want to do.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not. He's pretty filthy. But other than that, what's been the latest with you outside? You know, like how's your life, Miri?
My life is really good.
Yeah?
I work a lot, but when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. I get
that's the
asked
goal,
a lot,
right?
you know, like, aren't you tired at the end of the day? And I'm like, yes, I'm actually really tired at the end of the day, but I love what I do. I have 2 boys who are like giant. They're getting giant,
Same.
and it's terrifying. I don't know. It's maybe my life's boring. I don't know.
I was going through old pictures where the other day, I had a whole bunch of old school, like back in around that time period, and then you had a July 4th party.
I remember.
My wife and at the time I only had one kid.
And she was tiny.
She was little, and now she's not too far off. How tall are you?
5'9.5", maybe?
Yeah, see, my daughter is already like 5'5".
Oh yeah.
And she's 11, and so she's gonna be super tall. Although she's bummed out, she didn't make.
I can't believe how big she is.
I know,
It's crazy.
and she didn't make the volleyball team. She was bummed.
Oh, that sucks.
That sucks. But she's like a D&D player, and she's like.
Of course she is.
Yeah, she's like.
It's so funny.
She's like she's a total. She's an act. She wants to be. She was Mary Poppins in her play. She was fantastic, and that's the kind of stuff. And she like plays the cello, right? So
that's amazing.
Yeah, she's
multifaceted
and super smart, and she gets down on herself because she didn't make the team. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Do something else. If you want to try to do it, go back and do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't, if today that's not what was supposed to happen. And she's like, all right, that's fine. The other one, I've told this story before, but I have to tell you because I know you're going to appreciate it. My little one, who's almost 6 now,
so cute.
yeah, is essentially a soprano. And she's
like a singer or
No.
mafioso?
Mafioso.
Oh my God.
She's making deals, and so the other day, it's the first day of kindergarten. And I've told this story before, but I have to tell you because it's just there's a little added to it. So we take her to kindergarten, and she is just the last person in, bawling, doesn't want to leave my wife's side, like heartbreaking, kind of crying, right? And like, oh man, this is rough. And we're
First
both
day
there.
kinder.
First day, and we're there. We're like, oh no. So she's holding on to my wife. We're trying everything to get her in there. So you remember in the show Ninjago?
Of course.
Okay.
I have 2 boys.
Right. So
Oh,
my little one loves Ninjago. And so my wife then looks at her and goes, okay, Maisie, if you go in, I'll give you 3 Ninjagos when you get home. And my kid's crying, and she goes, 4. And my wife goes, okay, 4. And then she looks at her and goes, and a lollipop.
Oh, wow.
And she goes,
Okay.
She goes, and a lollipop. And so then Macy goes like this, turns around and walks in. Now she wasn't
Jimmy Hoffa.
Now she wasn't like crying and then putting on a show. She was legit crying. She just got a deal that was presented to her that was too good to pass up and too good to not negotiate. And I went, all right. I saw some dill hole on the thing on the comment section, be like, hey, it's not good parenting if you let your kid get away with it. I'm like, my kid's gonna be cutting deals, and she's gonna buy and sell you. Like this. Like she is like.
Also, I always wonder if those folks that make those comments are parents.
They probably not.
Do you know what it's like to be a
Yeah.
parent?
Yeah.
I challenge any person to, and I'm a single mom half the time. My ex and I, we share our kids, but
Right.
but it's like it's a lot. Parenting is a lot.
You dropped that bomb just now.
No,
So,
I mean you knew that.
I knew that, but the audience didn't know that.
Well, the audience mostly doesn't know me, most likely.
Well, maybe not, but that's
Yeah, that was a long time. I mean, that's already been.
That's been a bit
Yeah.
So, but everything's good there too.
Yeah.
Because, and then that's the other thing I see that I was talking about that with Brett, that there are a lot of times where you think you're in a particular situation that you're going to be in forever. And then that situation changes, and then you, as you get, not you in general, but as people.
One does.
One then looks at their situation and goes, oh, well, that's kind of where I guess I needed to shift. And maybe, so do you feel that, because I know that there's obviously, and we don't have to get into, there's a lot of love and everything that comes with an ex and all that, but did you feel that, oh, no, this is where I'm supposed to go and this is how I can kind of continue my life?
You mean splitting up?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get married thinking you're going to split up.
Sure.
But I think it became very clear, that was the right choice for us. I think it's like choose your hard,
Right.
Like it's hard to split up, and in some cases it's really hard to stay together. And sometimes you have to choose the less hard of the two.
Yeah.
And I think that's it was definitely more hard in some ways. But
I'm sure.
But yeah, I think now the dust has settled enough and there's been enough time where, I actually would say that the co-parenting is better now in a lot of ways, maybe because of how I've grown and how he's grown. And, we're more able to like communicate and we can agree or disagree, but like I don't know. I just feel like we get along way better.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and then do you feel that...
Because we don't live together.
But isn't that the truth?
Living alone is kind of nice. I'm just gonna say.
But that's what I meant. But that's what I meant though, because you get to and like you said, when you get together with someone and you're married, the goal is that you always want to stay together. But at some point, you realize, like you guys did, that it's time to move apart. And then, like you said, you were able to concentrate on your career even more so now. And do you find though, with the things that you've gone through in your relationship, that you're able to kind of bring that to your new business?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that new anymore, believe it or not. But yeah, I
new endeavor to me.
I know
sitting down
to
with
you
you
it's
is,
new,
yeah,
but I work with a lot of couples.
Yeah,
and it definitely helps inform my experience as a therapist. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is I love Esther Perel. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a psychotherapist. She's been working for probably like 30 or 40 years. I don't know. She wrote two books. One is called Mating in Captivity.
Okay, and
it's all about how marriage is, when we invented marriage, it was a business transaction between two families and people lived to 25.
Right.
So it really has evolved into something very different. Now people are married and live together and they live to 90. And, we used to rely on community for a lot of the things that now we rely on our partner for. So marriage takes a lot of hits.
Right.
And a lot is required of marriage in our culture. So the idea that you're going to be the same person or that your marriage is going to be the same, you're actually, I don't know how to say this, but it's like if you want your marriage to last and be healthy, you have to be committed to the growth of yourself, your partner, and your relationship. And the relationship is a living thing. Yeah. So if you tend to it and you're committed to it and you're committed to your own growth and the growth of your partner and they're committed to their own growth, then I think you can do wonderful things. And, I work with a lot of couples that are in non-traditional relationship structures, so polyamory or consensual non-monogamy, and that's more and more popular. People are exploring that a lot more.
I have a friend that, I think she talks about it on the air all the time. So do you remember Dorina? She's after your time. She was after your time.
My memory is also.
It's okay. She was after your time. But Dorina open marriage and talks about it all the time on the air. But it's like, it does seem like it was so. I mean, I'm not going to say that everybody understands it because they don't. I mean,
it's not for everyone.
No, and it's one of those things where but people do talk about. I hear it more now.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, wait. Even when she first told me back, whenever it was, and I was like, wait, what? How does that work? And because it's still, I'll be honest, it's still. I think you've got to be in a certain place, like both people, obviously, that you have to be completely okay with it. Because I have a friend. And he talked about it, and this is where we can be more comfortable here because like I talked to this guy, my buddy of mine, and he's like, I think I want to get into this. I want to try to do the open marriage with my wife and have a thing where we're going to go to this club and there's this like sex club that they wanted to go to, and he wanted to go to, right? And then I was like, well, wait a minute, let me ask you a question. You're telling me that your wife is going to be okay if you're there with another woman? And he's like, maybe. And I was like, but here's the other question. You're there, you're in the room, and you turn over, and there is your wife going to town with another guy. You're going to be okay with that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. Now, I'm not saying that there's some people who aren't, who
a
are
lot of people aren't.
Totally. But my particular friend was like, they just think of the sex side of it. And they're like, oh, it'd be great to have another woman.
Well,
and then you're full
Here's
of
the thing. Monogamy is a relationship structure that we default to because of the culture and society and religion that we've been living in. Yeah, it's the dominant.
Right.
It's the thing that we default to. And it probably works for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everyone. And because it's the default, there's a lot of people who find themselves in monogamous relationships that are not really happy. They're not meant to be monogamous. Sure. And there's also relationships that start out monogamous and then open and then close again. And, you know, my feeling is it's always a really great idea to stay connected to yourself and with your partner, have these conversations. The thing I will say about working with couples who are consciously engaging in non-monogamous structures is that they, when it goes well, have some of the most beautiful, conscious, communicative relationships.
Right.
They have to.
Right.
Some of them have contracts. Some of them have like ground rules and protocols, and they're constantly revisiting it and they're constantly talking about it. So yeah, you're right. A lot of people are like, yes, I can have sex with whoever I want. It's like, no,
doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
And in fact, there's a lot of work that goes into it, particularly like polyamorous structures where you have multiple relationships or relationship anarchists. I mean, there's so many different ways to skin the cat, as they say. Like,
but again, even that to me is even crazier. Having like a few different relationships and marriages, and what I'm saying is
time consuming.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You just talked about how long were you married for?
11 years.
11 years. Okay, I've been married now for almost 14 or 13, and that's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's 11. It's a big amount of time.
You two? No, I'm all right. One's enough.
Yeah.
And right now you're like, no, I like being alone. I like living alone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and that's balancing that. That's a lot, man.
It's a lot, and I think it. You know, I have a lot of respect for people who choose monogamy.
Yeah.
Like I know, I have thought about it. I've done the work, and I know that this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for people who choose non-monogamy. I just think the idea is that you should choose. Like, and your choice isn't set in stone because you're always growing and changing. So exploring it and confronting some of the maybe internalized things, especially like men have ideas about what it, you know, and I'm talking about cisgender men, cis straight relationships, like men have certain ideas about what they're supposed to be. Women have certain ideas about what they're supposed to be. And I think it's wonderful that, you know, we're opening things up and talking about other ways of doing things, just because I've always been an expansive person. And I think it's good to do that. I think it's good to just get in touch with yourself and also to know what did you learn along the way and what is actually what you believe.
Yeah.
And I think we internalize so much stuff from like Disney movies and, you know, rom-coms, and there's a lot of very harmful messages where we're normalizing codependency and we're normalizing like obsessive behaviors, and like you see some stuff on older movies and you're like, oh God, that's not so healthy.
Did you see the whole? Because I agree with. I think it depends on the movie you're talking about, right? For sure, because I do think that that's accurate. But then I think there's times like, do you see this whole thing that's going on with Rachel Zegler? So Rachel Zegler.
I'm quite out of the loop
That's
on
fine.
a lot of things.
That's fine. Rachel Zegler, who was the actress who was in West Side Story, the Spielberg one, and then she was recently in Shazam, and I think she's a really good actress. But she's got cast as the new Snow White, and she's in with Gal Gadot, who plays the stepmother. And on the carpet on like D23, she was talking about how it was. You can have these ideas of what the old school movies are, and I think that's fair. But she was kind of like talking down to the people that loved it, or the idea of love in general, right? Because she said that the whole time she's like, and then she has like this prince who's like a stalker, kind of weird, and it's like he just, and my friends on Double Toasted said it too. He's just boring. He's not really a stalker. He kind of.
I think in Cinderella, it's more of a stalker situation. Yeah, I mean, he finds a slipper and he like hunts her down.
But they had a great night together.
Okay.
They had a great night. He didn't just like fight. He's like, who's that broad? He's like, they had a great night together.
They had a couple of dances.
And she bailed on him. They had like a great night, and they bailed. I don't know. And then, but this woman on TikTok actually had this whole response to it and said, like, in Cinderella in general, she's like, people kind of downplay like the Disney princesses and Cinderella in general. And she goes, Cinderella, yeah, okay. The part she wanted to find love. She wanted to find Prince. She's like, is it so wrong to find love? She's like, but the thing is, she was imprisoned.
She was in an abusive, 100%.
And she fought out of it, and she fought away, and it wasn't. And she fought away, and she went to the ball. She did what everyone said: stay here, do this, do
Hooked
that,
up
do that.
with the first guy who love bombed
She was
her
hard up,
and
man.
showed her like, yep, that's what happened.
She was talking to animals the whole time. So, anyway, listen, it's all about health. It's all about health. That's what we're talking about here today. And I got two of them for you before we move on. AG1. I've told you about AG1 many times over, and I use them all the time. I love AG1, and I'm going to tell you about why I love AG1 so much. And speaking of, BetterHelp. Go and check out BetterHelp. They've been a partner for a long time. I'm going to tell you about both of those right now. You guys are very familiar with AG1, and I'm glad that I am. I love AG1. They've changed my life, man. They really have. Our next partner is AG1. It's the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. I wake up in the morning, I shake up a scoop in a bottle of water, and actually been using this cup I got from the zoo. Don't ask me why, but that's what I've been doing normally. And I put it in this cup and I shake it around, and I love my coffee. I'm not going to tell you that I don't love coffee, but I only take 1 cup of coffee now. I only need 1 cup because AG1 is my sleep quality is better. Just everything about it. I feel like my immune system is better now. It's like there's so much better. I just feel overall, I feel so much more healthy. I've been in a better mood since I've been taking AG1. I really have, and I love it. It's so good because I can't do it's hard for me to do the supplemental routine. It comes with a whole bunch of different products, and it's just, I don't know. It's just easier for me to do it all with one shot. And since I've been drinking AG1, I've known just a lot of mental clarity. My digestion is easier. I'm focusing a lot better. So for me, I don't understand why people would want to take a bunch of different things where you can just take 1 scoop, put it in powder, shake it up once a day, boom. Because AG1 was designed with ease in mind so you can live healthier and better without having to complicate your routine. It's the best. I am so excited, and I'm so glad they're with us. They've been with us for so long, and I had someone over the weekend ask me, "Hey, I want to support the show. I want to try AG1. You think I'll enjoy it?" I said, "Yes, you will enjoy it for sure." And one of the things I really like about it too is that it tastes good. It's green. It tastes good. I'm telling you, and it smells good too. My wife the other day, she's like, "What smells like berries?" I was like, "AG1, man." So if you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You have to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out. You'll thank me later. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. All right, so there are tons of times, especially for me, I've just kind of been up late, thinking too much. So don't think about that now. Don't worry about that now. Just go to sleep. Go to sleep. But you can't. You just have thoughts racing through your heads, keeping you up at night. Do you ever do that? You ever just, right before you're about to sleep, your brain just won't stop talking? Well, it turns out that one great way to make them stop is to talk through them. And that's what therapy does. It gives you a place to do that so you can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental peace. I've talked about it here. Roxy's talked about it here. Roxy has been with BetterHelp and using BetterHelp for months and months and months, and she's in such a great place. I have family members that have been with BetterHelp, such a better place now. It is so helpful and so convenient. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. What you do is you fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with a licensed therapist, and then you switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/bigthing today and get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. BetterHelp.com/bigthing. All right, thank you again to our wonderful sponsors, AG1 and BetterHelp. As I mentioned before, if you have the means and you want to help out the show and you want to help out yourself, please consider one of our wonderful sponsors. The link is in the description, and we pin it on the first comment here today. We've already been doing this for 45 minutes.
Unbelievable.
Time flies, man.
It does.
It's nuts. What do you what's going on for the rest of the week?
What is it today?
Weekend, I guess.
Friday?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what
weekend
day
plans?
it is. Not really.
No, just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to not structure time too much when I have free time.
Yeah.
Which isn't often.
Yeah. So what do you do? Because back in the day,
Maybe some beach. It's gonna be
Okay,
nice.
yeah, it's so funny though too because it is like I can already tell just from our conversations, right? Like because I guess 10 years ago, I'm going, what are you doing? We go, I'm probably going to watch an old Lawrence, I'm going to watch, what's his face, Peter O'Toole movie, or I'll watch
Lawrence
this.
Brave is a commitment. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But
Well, that's why I just changed it to Peter O'Toole.
Right.
But just, I'll watch a Peter O'Toole movie, I'll do this or that. Like, now it's different. Your love for cinema is still there.
yeah, no, I love movies and I love TV shows. I just don't have the bandwidth as much. I mean, my days are pretty. It's interesting because when you work as a therapist, your time is it's like being a Swiss train.
Yeah.
You have 50-minute sessions. Sometimes they're longer, but you have a very, like, my schedule looks like a Tetris. Like there's,
Sure.
you know, so I have to structure my time. I have to fit things in. I have to be really sort of granular about it. So when I have like a weekend, I'll probably end up catching up on a lot of paperwork and that sort of thing, which is really boring. But if it's nice, I might get on a bike and go to the beach. I don't know.
That's cool.
It's nice weather.
Yeah,
Finally.
it is. It's a strange weather. That hurricane hit for like a day and then it went away.
Yeah. But I was driving back from Las Vegas.
Oh, so you got hit. Oh, wow.
And
so you probably got hit pretty bad.
Yeah, and it was so crazy because they closed the roads at like Barstow, so I had to go through the Mojave, which is right where it was. But I'm Canadian. I was like, it's a little rain. It's okay. But it was pretty gnarly driving.
I'm sure it was at that point. Like here, it wasn't. It was like we had worse rain in like February and March.
Yeah, it rained all winter.
It rained for a while, the most.
I did not sign up for this.
No, not here.
This is not. Most of us that live here are, a lot of people are from cold places, and we were all like,
I know.
vitamin D.
I remember we had on. So it's so funny. Like a week before, so Andrea Riseborough she got nominated for the Oscar.
I saw that. She was on the show.
Like 2 weeks before she was nominated for the Oscar, she came into the show, and it was pouring when she came in. Like she's little, right? She's one of the coolest people I've met.
She's actor.
Great actor. But I was worried that the wind was coming so strong, it was going to blow her over into this pool of water that was, because as we were walking through, and I was like being so protective, but like not in an obvious way, but I'm just like, it was windy. I was getting pushed, and the amount of like puddles and all that, I was like, what is this? This isn't California. But that was not the case for the hurricane. And that's what
well,
everybody
it didn't hit here. You're on the west side of Los Angeles. It was like rain.
Right.
It was just rain.
Of course, there were other places that got hit hard, but if you listen to the news and you went to the supermarkets, it was like The Walking Dead.
Ridiculous.
People are throwing things off the shelf, and Miri wanted some honey turkey. That's all I wanted. My wife went to the supermarket to get. She's like, line was too long. You're not getting your honey turkey, and I'm like, stupid hurricane.
Yeah, but it's crazy. But to speak to mental health again, because there it is. But when I don't watch television news, I consume news with reading, and I'm very intentional because I feel like pretty much every news channel, televised news outlet, whatever,
it's entertainment now.
It's just let's get eyeballs.
Yeah.
So they find out that there's a hurricane hitting California, which doesn't happen, and they're just like, storms. Yeah. Look out! Everybody's gonna die, and it's just like. It just is never as bad as they say, and I feel like it's just not good for people. People get scared, they get anxious, they get irritable,
and that's
they drive like crazy.
And that's what they hope for the ratings.
It's
so they get more so because and then person in the accident, then they go, oh, look at this, there's an accident that happened and that was related to the story that we put out there and we caused it.
And it's our fault. Oh, and by the way, there was also an earthquake.
That was nuts. That was in Ojai.
Yeah.
I saw some of the funniest. Well, I say funny because I know they both survived. But the footage I saw, there was this woman and she's like in her kitchen and it's just the shaking is insane.
Yeah.
And she just runs outside. 3 seconds later, her kid comes running out after her. How about you get the kid first?
That's pretty funny. It's funny what we do when the gloves are off and it's survival.
But I mean, I know myself well enough because I would say back in the day when I didn't have kids, if I was like, well, what would I do? I would definitely go and get my kids. Like my kids
I would get my kids and my dogs and my lizard.
I know.
I would get all of them.
Yeah, like, I'm happy because I think there are people that would ask themselves that question, like, what would I do? And before I had kids, I definitely would ask that question. I just know now, like, I absolutely I remember.
You know how you know? Because it's like if you're walking on the street, you ever notice, like, if one of my kids is on I'm
I
like,
push them to the
nope,
side.
you go to
That's
the
exactly what
buildings.
I do.
And it's like,
Yep.
why? If a car comes careening off the road, we're
Can hit both of you,
both
but
fucked.
but it's all no, it's fine. But it's also one of those things too. Like I do it all the time, or not, and not necessarily just for a car. My oldest is a little kind of like, I don't want to
it's the
step it in
whole-
the street.
it's the
The whole generation is nuts.
They're
Yeah.
all like, do. I mean, it's screens. I'm sorry.
It
we
is.
we were the last
I know.
generation of like, nobody has any record of what I did when I was 16. Thank God. It's a good thing, you know. It's gone.
I know.
It lives only in my memory and
So
barely.
you think satellites somewhere?
Oh God.
Who knows?
It's scary.
Yeah, it's true.
Scary.
Who knows what they have? You believe in these UAPs, man? UFOs.
Or what is the other one? That birds are actually government drones.
Oh my God. There's so much craziness
I
out
know,
there.
but there actually are UFOs apparently. Aliens are real.
That's what I'm
Bob
saying,
Lazar, he's
man.
been saying it for years.
He has been saying it. We do an episode of this show every Tuesday where it's because it's UAPs now.
Oh, right. What is it? Unidentified alien.
Aerial phenomenon, or someone told me it was something else, but it's one of those two. And myself and Riley actually talk about it every Tuesday. But like, yeah, it's.
Oh, Riley.
But
tell me.
yeah, I will. But but that's the whole point. What you were just talking about, with like the news, right? It was one of the things that pissed me off the most because I'm not necessarily. I mean, I have my own theories about it, about what this guy said, and let's say hypothetically, there are aliens, whatever he said, bodies. My thing more so was, we have these military pilots who have seen things. This is no longer like, oh, there might be stuff out there. There's stuff we don't know what it is, but there's stuff out there, and it should be investigated, and we should get any information that they have, and they have these hearings on it, because at what point both Matt Gaetz and AOC are on the same page? And some people are like, well, they're funding something together. They're working on the same project. That's nonsense. And you have all these Republicans and Democrats, and the number one story on all the news sites was Hunter Biden, Trump, the serial killer in Long Island,
Yep.
and then some outlets didn't even cover it. A fucking UAP hearing, which, whether you believe in it or not, you're like, wait a minute. Everyone should know that they're talking, whether you think it's crazy or not. It should have been the top story. The government, it wasn't like 3 people.
But then to go back to news organizations are owned
Yes.
by people
Yes.
who have interests
Agendas.
and pockets
Yes.
and
Yeah.
money that they put in other people's
And they
pockets.
call and say, don't
So-
cover that story.
Yeah,
We need
for
to cover
sure.
this instead.
Bury it.
Yeah, bury it.
So
100%.
I listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I believe the earth is round.
What?
But also, like, there are definitely a lot of things that we probably are shielded from, don't know
sure.
about. I mean, for our safety, but you know.
Right.
There's
And I
no
think
such thing as a
sometimes that
true
might be
one.
accurate, but other times it's narcissism. And I think that it comes to this very similar to what we were talking about before, this want to hold on to power and information because, again, hypothetically, if you had that kind of information that you were holding on to and your organization was holding on
Power.
to, it's major power.
Well, you know, the person who sent me the article that
Yeah.
we talked about, Che Johnson, who's a dear friend and colleague
Yeah.
of mine, he'll say things like, narcissism is literally going to kill us all. And it's true
Yeah.
because, again, it's like when you live in a culture that, you know, glamorizes, normalizes, celebrates, rewards narcissistic behavior, of course it's going to make more of it.
yeah.
We're talking about it now, and I think it's kind of one of those terms that's overused. Like, in fact, people with narcissistic personality disorder are rare, but there are a lot of narcissistic people, and there's a big difference.
I just read that recently, that I think that the condition itself is like, was it 1% or something?
Well, it's tricky because narcissistic personality disorder is one of the hardest things to diagnose because most people with it don't think they're the problem and don't go to therapy. Like, it's a hard thing to measure.
so hard to get the data.
Hard to get the data. It's
Yeah.
different than depression and anxiety, which people are like, I'm really depressed, I'm really anxious.
Yeah.
But often people with cluster B personality disorders, I get really nerdy here, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
But
Yeah.
cluster B personality disorders, which is histrionic borderline narcissist, they typically have relational issues and often don't necessarily or can't understand that their behaviors are the problem.
Right.
Like, they don't, it's sort of a...
Everyone else is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what we call ego syntonic, ego dystonic. I'm remembering from my clinical exam, which was really fun.
Yeah, and so it's been so you've been it's I guess it's what, 7 years now you've been
Yeah, I went back to school. Oh my God, it's already 7 years.
wow, Time flies, Miri Jedeikin.
Time flies when you're like changing your whole life.
I know. And time flies. Look at this. We're ready at 55 minutes. Unbelievable.
Is that it?
I think so. I think
I'm gonna have to come back.
Yeah, I would love to have you back. And now that we know that for sure you only live like 10, 15 minutes
close.
away. Yeah. So, and I think that the last thing to kind of maybe close off this conversation on the strike and mental health. And like, I think that the other thing that you kind of touched on quickly, but it's the amount of, I think what really leads to all this is the exhaustion. Because just think about it in general with when you work too much, and as you said, yeah, you're having fun, but I've been doing a lot of, like, for me, I was working like the last 2 years on this channel.
I remember too, before you always were a worker.
I think, and like when I would,
Workaholic.
and I had to, and that was when I had a crew. I had you to help. I had Mark. I was really, even when I was for the last year and a half, or year rather, once I left Skybound and I was doing it here, I would push myself, and just push. Oh, yeah, I got to get it done. I have to do this. I got to make sure I got to do this video. I got to do this. I got to do that, and just keep myself going. And if I walk in and I'm like, and my kids are like, Dad, let's play. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm not giving them the full attention. And then recently I don't want to get too much into it, but I was talking about like the manifestation and things, and I was listening to certain authors, and my life has just been so much, and people don't understand and I didn't, what manifestation really is, right? It's not like you don't just put it out into the universe and then tomorrow it's like it's a lifestyle, and it's like you have to have a certain. You can work hard, but it doesn't have to be the thing that defines you. It doesn't have to be. Right. You can have like I always tell myself, well, if I take an extra hour, then it's an extra hour I don't have, and I'm like, no. Like last week, I took a break and I took my wife to lunch, and I did this, and I was like, no, I'm going to take these moments, and I did what I had to do. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to go in, and it's like I'll get to it when I get to it, and like my demeanor hasn't changed. I think it's gotten better. Well,
that's what happens. You're talking about sustainability. And, Emily Nagoski wrote a book called Burnout because this is such a big problem.
Yeah.
Again, it's like we are rewarded for productivity. We're rewarded for output. And we glamorize workaholism when in reality it's killing us and it's terrible for you. And cortisol and stress are like the worst things for you. And it's great to hear that you build in some like downtime. And for me, what's great is I work with a lot of like super achiever, perfectionistic type A personalities. Yeah. And we have these mechanisms when we're that way that if I don't do that, I'm not worthy. Yeah. I'm not as worthy in the world. And that's all bullshit.
Right.
But what's interesting is, as you are mentioning, when people start to slow down and they start to build in self-care is like another one that's talked about a lot, but really the best way to measure self-care is, do I feel better, more clear, more grounded, more energized after I engage in that activity? So it's often free. Hiking, playing with your kids, meditating, like doing things that feed your soul and help you go on. It's funny how like sometimes doing less helps you do more.
It's amazing. Yeah. Like, so just changing like a routine, right? Like, so I have the same routine like every morning. Like, I think people would call you out if they think you're full of shit. And like, I literally wake up every morning and I have AG1. Like, it's on my shelf back there. It's so good. It's like all vitamins.
What is it?
Oh, it's just vitamins all in one shot. It's behind you on the corner there. You see the.
I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna take it.
I think I have some packets if you want to, but I take it every morning, and as I said before when we were talking about the sponsor, like, too many vitamins you have to take throughout the day. It's tough for me. It's all one scoop. I do it nice. Anyway, I take it in the morning, and then I cut down my coffee. I used to do 2-3 cups of coffee a day. I do basically a half a cup of coffee now because AG1 gives me enough energy. Then I take the dog on a walk. I say the stuff that I need to say, and my own routine that I have, and I put myself in. I've just been in so much more of a better mood, and just kind of like So it's been good. But my point of it is, when you get to this place when you are like people who are picketing right now, stressing out about work, the other side of like, there is so much exhaustion that is probably just really weighing down.
Fear.
Yeah.
People are really scared. It's interesting, when I became a therapist, you have to take care of yourself as a therapist or you can't take care of other people. Right. So working in a helping profession has helped me learn to help myself and do all the things that you're talking about. And I hope that people picketing and people that are really affected by the strike are taking little moments to just like be with their families and take good care of themselves. And it's easier said than done. Also, I think the big thing is like, don't beat yourself up if you can't. Like, if it's just too hard, getting angry at yourself that you can't drop in to meditate is not
Right.
going to make you feel better.
That's
you
one
know?
of the things that I, again, have been learning through the last couple of months about this stuff too. It's like, it's not a matter of going, oh, I was supposed to think in positive ways and I thought negatively,
Yeah.
so I'm screwed now. It's like, no, acknowledge it. Figure out, instead of saying, well, what'd you do wrong? It's like, no, okay, what can you find from that and what can you do kind of moving forward? But we'll talk about this and more next time.
Yes, we will.
So are you, so what are you got anything, your podcast? What's going
Working
on right
on
now?
one.
Okay.
With a couple of colleagues.
Okay.
But
So people want to find you and what you're doing right now.
Well, Instagram is Miri Jedeikin.
Okay.
I have therapywithmiri.com as my website.
Okay.
If you're interested, I tell you more about what I do
Yeah,
on there.
yeah.
I don't really use, what is it now? X?
I don't
Twitter?
know. Yeah,
I don't do
I
that.
use it to promote the shows, but I'm not on there that much.
Yeah. And then that's really it. I'm not like super active on social media only because I'm really busy with clients most
Right.
of the time. And then by the time I'm done, I'm like, I just want to look at dog videos.
Understood.
That's it. So.
Again, happiness. Well, I'm glad you made it in. It was long
Same.
overdue.
I know, so many years.
Yeah, now
I
you're
said
here.
the pandemic like swallowed everybody
I know.
whole. It was like, 3 years just kind of went. That's weird.
Well, next time you can join me and Brett, and he'll be here.
Excellent.
Yeah, because Brett's
Excellent.
usually here all the time. He was going to be here today, he just couldn't make it. But
Cool.
all right, Miri Jedeikin, everybody. Once again, so glad to have her back. Show her the love in the comments, will you? And then for you guys, if you already have not done it, please and thank you. Hit that button. Trying to get to 100,000. We're getting close, but we need your help.
Look at the two of you.
I know, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Thank you guys very much for joining us on the show. Have the best week. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the UAP Tuesday show with me and Riley, so we'll see you.